Before anything else, let me ask you something simple and profoundly psychological. When was the last time you were silent without trying to distract yourself, without picking up your phone, without organizing your thoughts, without searching for a quick answer? Just you and what emerges when nothing is done. Because there's a silent conflict happening inside many people. On the outside, life seems functional, practical, even successful. Inside, something remains empty, restless, nameless. And the strangest thing is that this emptiness arises precisely when everything seems to be in its place. This is where the story begins, but it's not yet where it reveals everything. Have you ever noticed how, even when everything goes right, there's still a void inside? It's not a physical void, nor something you can rationally explain. It's more like an aesthetic absence of the soul, a psychological space that echoes questions you've learned to ignore. You achieve things, solve problems, become productive, conscious, functional, and yet you feel something is missing. It's not a lack of information. It's not a lack of practice. It's not a lack of effort. It's a lack of presence. And that bothers you because it goes against everything we've been taught about progress and happiness. At some point, almost without realizing it, you learn to run away from the silence, run away from the raw feeling of being alone, run away from the discomfort of not knowing exactly who you are when no one is watching. So you try to fill the void. People come and go, achievements become goals, then routine. Distractions occupy every interval of the day. Even spirituality, when not conscious, becomes just another aesthetic attempt to feel complete without truly looking inward. All of this seems philosophical, beautiful, poetic, but in practice, it works like anesthesia. Emptiness isn't a lack of things. It's an excess of escape, an excess of external movement to avoid an internal encounter. Psychologically, this is clear. When you don't sustain what you feel, you create mechanisms to escape. Philosophically, this is ancient. Humankind has always feared empty space because it offers no distraction, only truth. And yet, you keep trying. Another relationship, another achievement, more content, another better version of yourself. As if emptiness were a technical problem to be solved with effort and strategy. But emptiness doesn't respond to movement. It doesn't react to haste. It's not impressed by productivity, nor by rehearsed, conscious speeches. Emptiness only responds to presence. And presence demands something that almost no one wants to offer: time, honesty, and vulnerability. That's why it persists. Because deep down, it's not there to be eliminated. It's there to be listened to. That's the practical part that almost no one teaches. You don't feel empty because you're broken. You feel empty because something within you is being ignored. Emptiness is not a psychological error. It's not an emotional flaw. It's a sign. A silent, minimalist, almost elegant sign in its pain. An aesthetic invitation to awareness. It points precisely to what you avoid feeling, remembering, or admitting. And the more you try to solve the emptiness as if it were an external problem, the further you get from the only thing that could transform it, real contact with yourself. There's a cruel irony in all of this. The more you run from the void, the more it grows. The more you try to fill it, the deeper it becomes. Not because it wants to punish you, but because it doesn't accept shortcuts. It doesn't want to be occupied. It wants to be traversed. And that generates fear. Because traversing the void means giving up the distractions that sustain the identity you've built up until now. And perhaps that's exactly what makes it all so uncomfortable. It's not feeling the emptiness. It's imagining what might emerge when you finally stop running away. It's realizing that in facing this inner space, something will have to fall. Some version of you will have to die. And it is there, precisely there, that the next part of this story begins to unfold. Perhaps now it makes more sense to realize that emptiness doesn't appear out of nowhere. It arises when you spend too much time living disconnected from what you feel. When you learn to rationalize emotions instead of feeling them. When you transform pain into productivity and silence into an appearance of control. Psychologically, this seems like maturity. In practice, it's internal detachment. Philosophically, It's the moment when you start living more to be accepted than to be true to yourself. And this deviation happens slowly, almost elegantly, until one day you realize you no longer recognize yourself in your own inner mirror. Emptiness also grows when you adapt too much. When you mold your own identity to fit other people's expectations, when you swallow your desires to maintain relationships, when you silence essential parts of yourself just to survive emotionally. This silencing is aesthetic on the outside and painful on the inside. You remain functional, conscious, practical, but something is left behind, and emptiness arises precisely in this abandoned space. It marks the place where you cease to be whole in order to continue belonging. And why doesn't it go away? Because emptiness isn't a psychological enemy trying to sabotage you. It's not a mental error or an emotional flaw. It remains because it wants to be heard. Because it's a silent invitation to consciousness, a philosophical call for you to feel again what was interrupted. Emptiness doesn't punish. It points things out. It doesn't demand immediate answers. It demands honest presence. While you try to fill it with noise, it insists on remaining. Here, a subtle yet profound shift in perspective occurs. Emptiness doesn't demand filling. It demands honesty. Emotional, psychological, and existential honesty. It asks you to stop pretending everything is all right when it's not. To stop seeking quick fixes for issues that need to be felt over time. To stop confusing conscious growth with sophisticated escapism. Emptiness wants you to look inward without a script, without pre-packaged aesthetics, without rehearsed answers. Now imagine this for a moment. 2 seconds of doing nothing, without interpreting, without analyzing, just feeling. Silence not as absence, but as space. Perhaps emptiness is not the absence of meaning. Perhaps it is the space where meaning is born, where something true begins to slowly reorganize itself, out of control, out of haste, out of performance. And if this touches you in any way, tell me in the comments. Write, "I feel this," or "This emptiness speaks to me." If it makes sense, also comment with the word presence. Samid, this helps me understand who is truly going through this experience with me, because from here on out, what comes next requires even more courage to keep looking. If you want to delve even deeper, also comment, "I stop," or "I am here." These simple words show that you are not just watching,